How are you doing, Mick?
I'm good, mate. I'm going well.
That's good. That's good. Now I hear you've put a bit of a jinx on Dan. We just discussed it earlier. I hear
We,
it was all you're doing.
I was saying a couple of weeks ago how consistent he's been, and I could argue that the last 2 weeks he's been consistent. He's consistently scoring half of what he was previously scoring.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Have you mentioned to him? Because I don't. I imagine, does he listen sometimes? Maybe did he?
I think he does.
Has
I'm
he?
pretty sure he listens it to all the time.
Good.
I heard.
Okay.
I heard he's actually got a new device that for his expected newborn in a couple of months that plays audio. And his wife has very gratefully suggested they play this podcast to help him sleep because apparently it works really well for his wife.
Perfect. Hey,
I know. Public
we're here to
service.
we're here to help. At the end of the
Yeah.
day, so help
So
whatever that help looks like.
So if you want to put this on Spotify and just tag it with soothing
Yeah.
sounds or sleep help or something, that'd go down really
Yeah.
well.
I I think that's a good tagline for this podcast, so we'll do it.
Mm.
But yeah, no doubt, if Dan's pieced that together, I'm not sure that you're the one that jinxed him, but we will go and have a look at Dan's scores over the last couple of weeks. The poor guy is probably not too happy, but hey, we all go through those runs. I can't say I have this year, but it may happen, Mick. It may
Yeah,
happen.
we need it to.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hey, there is a rumor that Haaland could be injured coming up to this game week. So I was thinking about that before, but then I remembered that, oh, hey, just this last week gone, Haaland didn't play, and I still did all right, which we'll see later. So, you know, can I weather the storm if he is out for a little bit? Who knows? But we'll have to wait and see. I'm confident that I can for a little bit at least. So
I
see
think you'll
how we
be
get on.
okay.
See how we get on. Well, look, we've got a lot to get through this week because there was a midweek game week, plus the game week just gone over the weekend. So there is a lot to talk about, a lot to get through. We're going to jump straight into it and talk about what has gone on between now and then. So, Mick, you were telling me that there's been a bunch of trades. I know Jeff was very active trying to trade some players to certain other managers. Jeff is a bit of a wheeler and dealer, likes to pounce on some good bargains and some good deals. He did come to me at one point in time, which I just missed, and he'd already done some other trades. So where are we sitting with that at the moment? What trades have sort of gone through, and who's the winners out of that trades?
Well, I guess I haven't really looked at the first one too much, but we'll have a look at that one together. So you're right. Jeff also offered me a trade. I know he offered Dan a trade. Dan mentioned it to me. I believe he may have mentioned it to Ben as well. So, but the deal was done with Nathan. So Jeff was looking for a starting striker. That's what he wanted. And he was giving up, I guess, one of his injured players was, I guess, who he was looking at. So it was with Nathan. So Jeff gave up Koulibaly and Isaac, the Swedish striker for Newcastle, for Joel Matip and Danny Welbeck. So interesting one there. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure Matip got immediately dropped and did Isaac as well. No, Isaac was not dropped.
No.
So Nathan has held on to Isaac there.
Him. Yeah.
And has Koulibaly as well. So effectively, it's Welbeck, so a starting striker for an injured Newcastle striker, and Koulibaly. So I'm not sure how long Matip was out for. It's an
I know
Nathan's
held him from the very beginning of the year as well, so hasn't really got many points from him because he has sort of been out injured. So it's interesting that he decided to pull the trigger on that one.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I mean, when I look at it, I'd probably say right now I'd prefer to be in Jeff's side of things slightly, only because Isaac's injured.
Yeah.
If Isaac's coming back next week, well, I'm on the other side of the fence. I think Welbeck's relatively nailed on as the starting striker for Brighton. Brighton are a decent team. I think they're in that 7th to 10th range.
Yeah.
They just don't. Their out and out strikers don't score. It's their wing backs and their midfielders really. Seem to do all the damage for them. So I like it. And I said that to Jeff after. I said I like it. I think Welbeck theoretically is a great pickup, but he's just never really done it. So I'd still be on his side because Jeff needs someone that can play.
Yeah.
But I think long term, Isaac, if it's only a short term injury, Nathan could well be the beneficiary there.
Yeah, short term, I think it's good to keep ticking over with some points if I'm Jeff. So I totally understand why he went down that road. And you might think, oh, Welbeck might score a goal or two or get an assist or two, over the game weeks before the World Cup. But I think overall, if you look at it over the year, I reckon Isaac would definitely catch and surpass him in terms of goals. So
Welbeck has played. He's played every game for Brighton. He's come one off the bench. So out of the 11 games, he's played 912 minutes. So almost every minute except for like 60, which when he came off the bench. Yep. He's got 4 assists, hasn't scored a goal.
Yeah.
For a team that's been, I guess, pretty good, he's 5th for creativity for forwards and 8th for threat. So I guess he's got to be in someone's team. Someone has to do it. But if he's your best chance at a goal in your forward line, you're probably struggling. And 15 goals for Brighton in 11 games, and not one of them has come from your starting centre forward.
Yeah,
you're probably in a bit of trouble there. So
it sounds like he's been more of a hold-up man, and passing off like wide, or from runs through them. Anything else? I'd be really surprised because Brighton are doing pretty well on the table at the moment. If their ambition is to push for a European place, if they think they're at that stage, I'd be surprised if maybe they didn't try and get a striker in January. Yeah. So that's always been their problem, that they haven't scored enough goals. So if they can get a prominent goal scorer into their squad in January, you got to think they might do that. And so that'll be interesting to see how that goes.
But I guess my concern is I look at Isaac's minutes. He's only played 3 games. Yes, he scored 2 goals in that. I believe one of them's a penalty. I could be wrong. I think the one against Liverpool was a counter-attack. But he scored 2 goals in 3 games, which, I mean, that's great returns, but I believe one of them was a penalty. Yeah. But he hasn't played another game, so he's actually missed the last 5 rounds. Yeah, so it's as much as it could be good, and according to the FPL side, he's ruled out until after the World Cup. Did Sweden make the World Cup, do you know?
That I do not know. Not sure.
We'll have a look at that. But I think as of right now, Jeff's done the right thing. I think Welbeck's better than anyone he would have picked up in the waiver wire. So I think that's an okay trade. I don't think Koulibaly, he's relatively easily replaced. I don't think Chelsea's that good. So I think in the short term, I'd be pretty happy to be Jeff. But what happens if in January there is a transfer, or if Isaac comes back, well, long term it might be a problem. But I can understand why he did 100%.
I was just going to say, I think in Nathan's case, though, like he wasn't trading out any heavy hitters for him. So it's worth the risk, I guess, at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. The second trade that happened was actually Craney to myself. So I traded, again, it was a midfielder and a defender. So I offered up Ben Mee and Harvey Barnes for Max Kilman and Marcus Rashford.
Okay.
So I've traded a Brentford defender for a Wolves defender. Arguably pretty similar. Not too much difference there. Obviously, it just comes down to fixtures.
Yeah. Wolves are doing worse, but like they can defend.
Well, they weren't at the start of the season. Just in the last 5 or 6 games, they've shipped goals. And I've traded out Harvey Barnes and picked up Marcus Rashford. So I'll admit that I went to Craney for that one. I basically offered Harvey Barnes and Ben Mee for Rashford and his choice of defender. I really didn't care who it was. My thinking there was Pontus Jansson's just been injured. Ben Mee, I can get a replacement in not Max Gilman, in Ethan Pinnock. Is almost a like for like. I can get a central defender for Brentford. Yes, he's not as set piece dominant, but the way Brentford play with the 5-back or 3-back with the kind of the high, wide centre backs. So they kind of play a really wide wing backs, and then their centre back actually pushes forward. Pinnock played that role and actually had a bit of goal involvement last year. That I think I wasn't losing too much with that. I knew I could replace him relatively easily. And then Harvey Barnes, I was trying to, I guess, get some return off the fact that in his last 4 rounds before this, he'd gone 2-3-8 or 8-2-3-8. So he'd scored something like 21 points in the last 4 rounds. So I was trying to bank on the fact, and Leicester have started to look a little bit better.
They have.
In return, and he was my 5th mid that I picked up in free agency only a week or 2 ago. For Rashford. Big reason I wanted Rashford is after watching the Tottenham game, Man U dominated them, like smashed them off the park. I was really impressed with how they played. I said, if they can play that way, Martial had just been ruled out until
Yeah.
pretty much the rest of this 4 weeks. So I said, well, he's the starting striker then. And then Ronaldo came and did what Ronaldo did and refused to come on. And they've said he's not playing this weekend.
Yep.
So as far as I'm concerned, Rashford's their only striker at the moment.
Yep.
So
True.
I figure if I can get him, I can get 4 weeks. I'm hoping to get some kind of return in these 4 weeks. If I don't, well, I might look silly. But I will say, I'll be interested to know what your opinion is on this. But Jeff sent me a message when he saw it, and he said, you have just committed daylight robbery. So I know which side Jeff's on, but I'm interested to hear what you think there as well.
He's on Liverpool's side, mate. Look, I'm a Harvey Barnes fan. And like you say, Leicester have been playing better, and he is key to how they tend to play, and he does score points. I see the rationale. I love an out of position player, and that's definitely what Rashford is. It sounds as though he had a lot of chances versus Chelsea and didn't convert when maybe he could have or should have. So if there's no reason why he can't convert a few more over the next 4 weeks, I don't mind it. Like you say, that sort of trade for the backs isn't too difficult to change if you want to. Look, I don't know who's won that one. I'm really keen to do a comparison for Barnes and Rashford over the next 4 weeks. To be honest, I'm really keen to see which one of those two. I haven't looked at fixtures. I've got no idea. You'd think that
That was my next thing.
Man U have probably started to turn a bit of a corner in terms of form anyway. Like I watched them versus Chelsea, and I thought that they were the dominant team.
So to get to round 19, which is when everyone's played everyone twice, the next 6, according to FPL fixture difficulty ranking, are all 2s. So they've got West Ham at home, Villa away, Fulham away, Forest at home, Wolves away, Bournemouth at home. So the 3 promoted teams, Villa, who got 17th, I'm pretty sure, last year, West Ham, who haven't been great, and Wolves, who, like you said, have leaked goals in the last few weeks. Solid run of form. Whereas Leicester have City next, then Everton, West Ham, Newcastle, Liverpool, and Fulham. So both teams have West Ham and Fulham. Outside of that, I'd be taking, obviously, Rashford. But 4 weeks, who knows what can happen in January? If Martial comes back, it kind of seems like Ten Hag wants Martial as his starting striker. So come January, this could be a very different position because Harvey Barnes, I don't think, isn't going to lose his spot. Leicester's not going to buy anyone. They didn't. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, for sure. Look, yeah, it could be a good shout. Like at this point in time, at this point in the season as well, before the World Cup, in the position you're in, which we'll look at it in a second, you may as well take that risk. I don't think you're going to lose out too much, to be honest, and it could have a real upside. So yeah, I'm keen to track it. I don't think I can understand why Craney would go for the deal. Absolutely, like I can see, Harvey Barnes is quality, and he's got maybe he has got an upgrade for a back there as well.
I will admit, Brentford in the lead up, so those last 4 games prior to that as well, they'd kept 3 clean sheets.
Yeah.
So Ben Mee was also coming off 20-odd points. So I effectively gave him 41 points from the previous 4 weeks in return for Rashford, who I think in the future is going to get it. So,
and that's the thing. You got to sometimes weigh up, hey, have I
maximize what I'm going to get?
My points at this point in time, and is it time for a change? Like, yeah, I totally get that. So yeah, I'm keen to see it. That's a good bit of business could be a good bit of business by both people in a sense. Like we'll have to see who the winner is over the next 4 weeks.
Interesting. Well, we'll get into the rest of the transactions, the waivers for this week.
Let's do it.
There's a few. It wasn't actually too many. Jeff went hard. Other than that, it was just Nathan and myself. So Nathan was first. He picked up Andreas from Fulham for Fornals from West Ham.
Yeah,
I'm going to give that an A. Andreas has been good. We've spoken about him. He's been pretty good in an attacking sense so far this season for Fulham, who have probably been better than most people would expect. And Fornals seems a little bit not necessarily out of favour, but West Ham just have so many attacking options. You just never know who's going to get picked.
Yeah, they haven't quite gelled yet either. So
I think in terms of just avoiding rotation risk, I'd say that's a pretty good one there for Nathan. I'd give that one an A. Dan was next, picked up Joe Gomez for Connor Cody. I think with Matip being out, Kanate was out, Gomez has been playing that either centre back role or right back role.
Yep.
That I think that's a pretty good pickup.
Yep.
The only thing I would say with that was Connor Cody the best person to drop? Their next run of fixtures was Palace for that game week, then Fulham, Leicester, Bournemouth, and Wolves.
Okay.
We'll have a look at. I guess it's hard to judge. I like the pickup of Gomez. It's just a matter of who his other defenders were.
Yep.
I guess we can have another look at that when we get to his team in a minute. Next up was myself. So I actually only put one trade in for this week.
Did the old drop a person you've got traded in? Love it.
Yeah. So I wanted Gomez. Tried to drop Kilman. Like I said, I didn't specifically want Kilman. And I hoped to get Gomez, but I wasn't quite sure I would. And I didn't. Then it goes on to Jeff. Jeff drops Diego Jota. So we spoke about him being injured. He had 2 injured forwards. He needed someone playing. He's picked up Mbeumo from Brentford.
Yep.
I think that makes sense. I'm looking at Mbeumo now. He scored 2 goals in every other game. He's got nothing but 2 points. He only just saw out the 60 minutes this week as well. So I think, it makes sense. He's now got 2 starting strikers, but they're historically not the best in terms of how they score. Then was Dan. He had another one for Cody, but he obviously already got it. The only other trade that actually went through, or there's 2 more, was Jeff dropped Matip, who he also got in that trade, and picked up Trevor Chalobah.
Oh, here we go.
Old favourite.
Chalobah's back.
He tried for Gomez. He ended up going for Chalobah. I don't know if that was because Thiago Silva had been out. Oh, he played the last 3 games and got 3 clean sheets. There you go. So he'd come off a good run of form. He got another 90 minutes, so I can understand that one, especially with him being out specifically. So for the next little while. In saying that, he's expected back only in a week's time, Matip. So it'll be interesting to see if anyone's willing to take him and hold him. The last one there was, like I said, I picked up Ethan Pinnock for Kilman, so I basically just swapped over my Brentford defenders there instead of keeping the Wolves one because they haven't been very good defensively. So that was the waivers for this week. A pretty short one, not too much happening there, and just basically people fixing up teams from players they didn't like that they picked up from trades.
Yeah, not too much going on. There'd been a bit of a... When there's always a midweek game as well, generally speaking, it evens out over the 2 sort of game weeks and you get as many trades as what you would in a normal week anyway. So, yeah, no, pretty good. I think it'll be interesting to see what sort of trades go on this week, if any, and the waivers, what sort of waivers go on this week. So, which we'll probably start to look at once we get into a few teams. So let's have a little bit of a look at the league. I'll just throw this up. So we're going to go through sort of 2 game weeks for each manager to sort of show you what happened midweek, what happened in the weekend games as well. But this is the table as it looks so far. So we've got Craney still in 9th place. Ben has snuck back down into 8th. Nathan has climbed up a little bit into 7th. Then we've got Dan, who we'll talk about and show sort of hasn't been going that great over the last few. Mick, you're in 5th. Dave has jumped back up into 3rd, equal with Jeff. Those 2 have sort of been, fairly equal over the last few sort of game weeks as well. It's sort of been jostling a little bit. Gilby in 2nd and myself in 1st. So not too much movement over the 2 game weeks.
Well, that is across 1 game week.
True.
So that's
yes,
relative to
right.
the game week before. I'd like to point out I was actually 7th last time we did a pod, so there is a movement there.
Sorry, you are correct, right? You have, and we'll be able to show that with your midweek game week, which was quite impressive, I must say. So we'll look at that, but it's probably best to start with Craney. So we'll throw Craney's up here. We will go to the previous game week 12, 37 points, not a bad return. If we're having a look here, his backs did a wonderful job getting in points. Van Dijk, Shah, Webster getting sort of clean sheet points there. Edward with 5 as well. Not too much else to sort of write home about. Didn't really leave much on the bench other than the goalkeeper Raya with 10 points. And I'm pretty sure he just sort of brought him in as well at that time.
He just brought him in. It was playing. He dropped Mendy, the Chelsea backup, supposedly backup, and picked up Raya when they were actually playing each other. I can understand why he kept Brentford's goalkeeper on the bench
Yeah.
against Chelsea and played Palace's. Just an unfortunate when he makes 5 saves for 3 bonus points and a clean sheet.
That's exactly right. So, it still had a few points on the bench there, but 37 is not too bad for a game week. And then 35, so a bit of consistency there, but the tail is in the mids. So Harvey Barnes did do pretty well for him, 8 points. I believe that's more than Rashford. So we've got to say Barnes has had a better game week in the first one there. He's won the battle there. And Xhaka with 10. That's really all he's got to write home about there. And bench-wise, again, didn't really leave much on the bench. So, Craney has been consistently in those mid 30 points, jostling between backs doing well, mids doing well. I'm sure he's waiting for a week where it'll all just sort of come together and he'll be able to get a good score on the board. So that's sort of where we're sitting there. Is that Craney's first trade with somebody as well?
I'm not 100% sure. I'll see if I can find it. But I know he's been pretty active overall in terms of waivers, but without having a go at him, he has been very much first picking. No, it's not. In round 4, he made a trade with Joe Ellington for Henderson. And I would almost go as far as saying neither of those players is in either of those teams anymore.
No. So bit of a nothing trade there, boys. Come on, do better. Do better.
At the time, it was probably something, but I think this one, I can't see Barnes and Rashford being in the waivers. I think they're both too high a profile.
Oh, yeah.
I would probably go as far as saying they're probably the best 2 players that have been traded, manager to manager straight so far this year.
Yeah.
I'll see if I can see any of the others, but probably that's probably the trade that could have the biggest ramifications out of everything so far. Alisson and De Gea, Ben and I guess a decent one there. Trippier and Barnes. Oh, I did trade Barnes again. Look at that. Who would have thought? I've traded him out twice. Oh,
that's pretty impressive.
That is.
Well done. Well done.
There you go.
So let's have a look at Ben. He's in 8th place. Now, we've got game week 12 up here now. Like Dan, Ben hasn't been faring too well. 23 points in game week 12. He's had Henderson with 11 points, which was his big hitter, and then really nothing else by anyone else. We had a big chat about Paqueta a week ago. He seems to be injured at the moment, got a Dorito of death, 25% chance of playing. Ben did ask me during the week, should I keep him? Without me knowing that he only had a 25% chance of playing, I said, yeah, absolutely. I think you should. I think there's upside there at this point in time, but at the moment, maybe not so much upside.
We should probably remember, I don't know, you might have been about to say the same thing, but Man City and Arsenal, no games that week.
Was just about to say that. Yeah. Yes, exactly. So some of his big hitters weren't playing. So we do have to remember that. So there were some lower scores due to that. And we'll have a look, as we go, who was able to navigate their way through that game week. Left 6 points on the bench with De Gea, but Henderson did better. Can't play 2 keepers. Unfortunate that we couldn't get more players on the park for him because there was a couple of zeros there. But unfortunately, the news hasn't got better in game week 13. Unfortunately, he's gone down another point to 22 overall. And other than White, with 6 points, unfortunately, he's had absolutely nothing from anybody. That's really unfortunate.
Except for his first bench.
Henderson, 11. He decided on De Gea, let's go with him, and then Henderson gets a sneaky 11 points.
It's another one of those. Do you play Forest's keeper against Liverpool, who's just beaten Man City, or do you play Man United's keeper, who's just beaten Tottenham against Chelsea?
Yeah.
I understand the decision. He did originally have Henderson, and then he changed it to De Gea last minute. He went, no, this makes more sense. Unfortunate one that cost him 9 points there.
Yeah, that is unfortunate. So, sometimes you get a little bit unlucky. That's for sure. So, let's have a look at Nathan then, shall we? So, game week 12, remember a whole bunch of people weren't playing. I'll throw this up on the screen. Mick, did you want to roll through Nathan's last couple of game weeks?
We'll start off with he has 2 City players, 1 Arsenal player, and he had Matip out that week, so he was only going to field a team of 10. He managed to get Varane and Veltman, 2 defenders, both getting clean sheets or at least returns, so 6 and 7. Outside of that, it's 2s and 3s and a 1 in goal across the board. So I guess a score of 30 in that week's not that bad. If I can find my numbers here, it was mid-table, pretty much, maybe a little bit below, but there was a couple of really low scores. So he did make up some ground on some guys above him, and he didn't really lose too much ground. So it's an okay game week. Good to get at least 2 returns, particularly when he has, I guess, effectively 5 players that weren't playing, so he had 10 to choose from. So a little bit pigeonholed there. We go to game week 13 next. He had a round of 46. So probably, I would say, his best game week.
Yeah, equals second in the game week as well. Pretty good.
Yeah, it's his second best game week overall so far. So
yeah,
and you can look, defenders really did nothing for him. 2 in goal, 2, 1 and 2 across the back. In the midfield, he had a 1, a 2, and a 2. Up front, he had a 2. So it was really just 3 players. He had a Wobie for 12, which I believe was only a pickup a week or 2 ago.
Yeah.
So good.
He's been in good form.
He's been really good. He's been efficient through the middle and kind of the link player that Everton need. He's never played that. He's played wing back. He's played wing. So he's playing really well there for them. He had Andreas the pickup this week for 2 assists and 2 bonus for 10 points. And Jamie Vardy coming off the bench for a goal and an assist and a bonus, 2 points. So 10, 10, and 12 in what was a really low scoring week for some people. Really good. Nothing really left on the bench. But I do look at his team and there's 4 Doritos of death, 2 light Doritos, 1 flaming hot, and 1 just nacho cheese. So we'll see. He's got a bit to go there.
Oh no, we're Nathan's in trouble. He loves nacho cheese Doritos.
I know. Well, I guess you could probably say, look, you can cop it, but 3 of them are defenders. So that's probably the hard thing is he may not be able to feel the team. So out of those, I look at Veltman. He's probably the one guaranteed to go. Not going to be a massive rush to pick him up, so you can pick him up later. Potentially Koulibaly, potentially Varane as well, really. Depends who he thinks is a better defender. I think Varane's more likely to maintain his spot than Koulibaly because Chelsea seem to have an influx of young guys. But Koulibaly's more likely to play. So I guess that's up to Nathan to decide.
Yeah, absolutely. And, he's got a couple of Man City defenders there, which, hopefully will steady the ship for him. I'm sure that's sort of what he's hoping over the next sort of couple of game weeks. But, well, it's probably time to have a look at the guy you put the mocker on, Mick.
I did this weeks ago. I said he was doing well weeks ago. It wasn't recent. It's unfortunate.
You could say that, but there's enough correlation there for me. So I'm going to give you the opportunity to defend yourself and go through Dan's team, if that's okay. So let's start with game week 12 for Dan. So how did that one pan out, Mick?
Game week 12, he did really well. He got 17 points. It's not the lowest score of this year. He did have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 players that did not play. 2 through injury, 4 from Arsenal and Man City. I guess when you've got 6 guys out, you're only going to have 9. 2 of them keepers, you're only going to have 8 playing. You're going to hopefully have to get some return from someone. He did get 1 return from Cucurella in a clean sheet, but that was it. And he got quite a lot of ones. So Jose Sarr conceded 2 goals. Doherty conceded 2 goals. Harrison came off the bench for 25 minutes. Apart from that, it was 2, 2, 2, and 2. So really got nothing there.
He could have got 18 points with.
He could have got the extra off the bench. Yes.
Come on, Dan.
Which is a tough one. But I mean, that's pretty rough. In saying that, I can't really necessarily blame him. Saliba and Diaz, you're going to be keeping those 2 defenders. Jesus, you're keeping. Mahrez, look, you're probably keeping.
Particularly when you look at now.
You would? Well, when
just
I look at the
only because Luis Diaz is injured, and you're going to have to. Surely he's probably going to hold on to him, right?
Well, I look at the rest of his midfield. Billing is a 5th midfielder.
At best, yeah.
Harrison,
you can have 5.
Well, Billings, he had a really good run of form, I'm pretty sure.
He did.
In the lead up to that. So I can understand why someone went for him. Podence and Harrison, I mean, they're 3 and 4s at best. So Mahrez is his second best mid. Diaz is far and away his best. So I can understand why he's trying to keep him because he's not going to – the points Mahrez can haul won't be replaced, I don't think.
No.
The problem is weeks like this. Yeah.
And look, I just think with Luis Diaz out, I'm not taking the risk of having Mahrez there, even if he does decide to haul. I'd be looking to either make a trade with Jeff because Jeff might take him,
Yep.
or move on.
Well, then we'll go to game week 13, where he fared a little bit better. He got 20 points.
Lovely.
I look at he fielded a full team this time, which is great. His backline combined for a total of 7 points, and that was all 5 defenders. So
that's
2
unlucky.
2s and 3 1s. I can include his goalkeeper because his goalkeeper got 0 there as well.
Good
So
point.
7 points across those 6 players is not what you're after. In his midfield, it was a little bit better. He had 2 2s and a 5 with Billing, Ponens, and Harrison. And then up front, Firmino and Jesus, 2 and 2. So left Mahrez on the bench for a point and Martinez on the bench for 7 points, which against Brentford, I can understand why he left him there, but I didn't expect Villa to change that significantly after Stevie G got sacked, which I don't think we've mentioned yet. Stevie G got sacked.
Yeah, what a slap in the face to Stevie G when they come out with a scoreline like that. Like, that's just insane.
Interesting decision. He hadn't even been there 12 months. So yeah, I found that a bit of a strange one. I guess I understand why they did it, because since just before Christmas, was it? No, not Christmas. A couple of weeks before the end of last season, they just have been awful.
Yep.
So interesting one there.
Absolutely.
7 points it cost him. He could have got to 20, 27. Rough game week. He scored 37 across the last 2 weeks, which is why he's slid significantly down the table.
So here's the issue that Dan has. He has to basically play that team every week because he's probably not willing to turf Richarlison or Diaz, and I can understand that. I totally get that. So for me, that makes it even more important that his first bench spot, whoever it is playing, and I can't see Mahrez playing regularly at this point in time.
Yeah.
That's just
2 weeks ago, he was 73 points behind you in first, Isaac, and now he's 125. So he's lost 52 points to the lead in 2 weeks. If you were to reverse that, if it went the other way, if he'd outscored you by 52, he'd only be 21 points behind and be outright second. Yeah. So that's a big swing that's happened there. Could have really made up ground, but instead he's really dropping.
I honestly think he should blame you.
Okay, well, that's fine. He can do that.
I think that's what the cause is. I'm sorry, Mick. That's just
that's okay. I've benefited. I've moved above him, so it's worked out okay so far for me. And I think I'm next.
I'm going to say that, Mick. That's a beautiful segue until you pointed it out. But yes, you are next. So I might quickly have a run through, and then you can have a bit of a chat about your team. So
I just get so excited. I look at this game week 12, and I would almost go I don't think you can have a better game week.
Right. Well, I mean, when your keeper's getting 15 points, you're probably right. I don't think you can have a better game week, honestly. Let's have a look at it now. I'll run through it, and you can just salivate as you watch the scores come into the screen. So Alisson with 15, Trippier 9, Justin 7, Alexander-Arnold 8, all hauling. Sancho, Barnes, Guimaraes, Eze, all hauling. You've got Mitrovic, 6 points. The only downside was that the fact that you didn't play me when you could have instead of a Bamford or a Wilson. But, mate, that's just a beautiful sight to behold, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
The fact that your second keeper got 11 points as well, like, come on, mate. It's just greedy.
And I think the best thing, the thing that made it the best is that's the week where everyone with City and Arsenal players did really poorly. So 79 points in a week where second place in that week got 43. Only 3 other players broke 40. That there was a 17, which is Dan that we spoke about. So I've made up 62 points in a single round on Dan. So I've gone from something like 30 points behind him to 20 points ahead of him. It's a massive, massive swing. But I was watching all those games. I was trying to watch a few of those games. So I think it was the Newcastle one, no, it was Leeds, Leicester were the last morning, and Newcastle Everton maybe. And I was trying to follow those, knowing because I'd already scored about 50 to 60 points, and I had these 2 games left over, and I had 4 players still. I was like, I'm on for a big game week here, and I was watching it. I've never wanted full time to get blown so quick in my life, knowing I had all these bonus points. But In saying that, got really lucky. Allison saved a penalty, 3 bonus points, clean sheet. Doesn't happen very often. He got an assist the week before, so he scored me really good points.
Yep.
And Alexander-Arnold, so I watched the West Ham game. He was awful defensively. Yet he gets 2 bonus points. I was literally going to send a group message in our message and say how bad defensively he just doesn't know where to be. It's unbelievable. Yet he comes out and gets 2 bonus. So I can only assume that's from successful crosses and
attacking. Yeah.
But oh man, he is probably going to be lucky if he goes to the World Cup. The fact that Reece James is injured is very good for him. But the way Trippier's playing, he's got no chance of starting ahead of Trippier. And Kyle Walker's also injured, so maybe he will get a shot at right back.
You got to assume he's got to go. But yeah, he's not going to start with Trippier in the form that he's in. Mate, that's just a great round. Like you say, I've had a 70. Has there been any higher than 79?
You've had a 70. Gilby had a 64. Dave's had a 64. That looks about it. I had a 68 in round 4.
Well, mate, you're leading so far as the biggest score of a round. So well done. That's a beauty.
I'll be surprised if anyone beats that. Outside of the big double game weeks come end of the year. I mean, the fact that you can't captain, that's still a hard score to beat.
Oh,
because in a double game week, you're going to rest players. They're going to come off the bench.
Yeah.
And they're going to have a bad week in terms of they can't have 2 good matchups. So, mate, I'm thrilled with that. It really set the tone. Unfortunately, we go to this week, and I lost a bit of that ground I made up.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, only a little bit. It wasn't too much. So I had Allison. Actually, I can't even see the points. It's not coming up. There we go.
Allison with 4. Nothing on the back. Pinnock decided to get you a blank. So really well done there. Rashford didn't want to beat Harvey for you this week, unfortunately. So only 3 points for him. Wilson with 5. Mitrovic with 6. Mitrovic has been outstanding for you. So, you know, that's been excellent. Eze's been really good for you too, but obviously Palace decided that, hey, we'll just lose casually to Everton 3-0 this week. Why not? But Eze's been awesome. That's been a really good pickup for you. You've left a few on the bench, Mick. Creswell with 8, Justin with 6. That's got to be a bit of a shame where, you know, you could have pushed up more into that 40-point range.
Yeah, I didn't. I played. It was between Pinnock against Villa and Creswell against.
New manager bounce though, dude.
Bournemouth.
New manager bounce.
Brentford have been good. They just kept a clean sheet against Chelsea.
Yeah.
Yeah, they conceded 4 to Villa. Just didn't make any sense. And then Trent came off the bench was the other one. But against Forest, I expected him, if he was to start. But yeah, unfortunate. Sancho, I think, also didn't start. Or he only got 51 minutes, sorry.
Let's have a look. Yeah, 51 minutes. How about Saka? Saka only got 1, so yellow card. There you go.
Bamford came off the bench.
Yeah.
Wilson and Mitrovic got me a little bit of help there, so not perfect. Justin on the bench for 6 as well, but I didn't expect them to beat Wolves 4-0. Not that Wolves have been that good at attacking, but I just didn't think Leicester were going to be that good. So a little bit frustrating. 26 points, not the worst, but did lose about 20 points out of I think I made up about 35 and I lost about 20-ish. So
based on the league table, you must have got up into 4th place. No, you haven't.
I didn't quite.
You've been into 5th. That's my bad. I'm looking at it because Dave's now equal points. He hasn't actually. He's gone up into 3rd, but he's equal 3rd. So into 5th, you got to be pretty like mid-table. That's not a bad spot to be at this point in time. And like realistically, you're 100 points behind. So you have. I think you did say before you have made up some points over the last few game weeks.
Yeah. So 2 weeks ago I was 113 behind. So I've made up 16 points in 2 game weeks. 8 points around, where that's very close to that 100, but I need to continue that. So, and I've mentioned, I don't know if it's been on air yet or what, but I can do well. That's all well and good, but I'm not going to have an 80-point game every week. What we need is, we being the other 8 guys, or other 7 guys and myself in this league, we need you to stop having 40-point rounds. We need you to have these 20s. Let everybody catch up 20 points and maybe we'll see what happens. But it's a different year, World Cup year. You never know. People are going
Yeah.
to come back injured from World Cup. You don't know what's
Yep.
going to happen. So, and I assume based on that the transfer window might effectively happen a bit earlier relative to the season because only 16 games will have happened.
Yeah, true.
And
Good point.
normally I think about 19. So we can
Yep.
effectively make big significant changes and have these players coming in a bit earlier than they normally would. And there's just been this massive showcase of talent. So
So are you saying I should tank for the waivers in January? Is that what you're...
no, what I'm saying is Haaland's about to get replaced. Just drop him
Ah,
now
okay.
and
Yeah.
go from there.
For Crady to pick up, oh great.
Yep.
Um,
He's 183 behind.
Yeah.
Haaland can keep doing what Haaland's doing, and that's still a lot of points to make up.
Yeah, true. But at the same time, I'm not making those points and Crane is, so it wouldn't take too long potentially.
That's true. But in a round you didn't have Haaland, you still managed to score
Oh, don't spoil it. Don't spoil it. No, don't
a
spoil
lot.
it.
Enough is how many.
Don't spoil it. Look, let's talk about Dave then, because he has jumped up into equal third. We were chatting about Dave. Dave hasn't been on the podcast for a little while. He's working hard. When I say working hard, not really probably working too hard on his fantasy team, but working hard just, in his normal day job. But he's had a couple of really good, solid point rounds. So game week 12, 41 points. Bazuna with 7, Shaw with 7, who's come on really strong, Botman with 7, so backline's done really, really well. Elise with 5, Darwin with 5, and the rest sort of just getting some appearance points. Obviously, he didn't have anything on the bench to sort of draw on with St. Maximum injured. So 41 points for, that sort of game week. Pretty good return. Got to be pretty happy with that.
Absolutely.
And then game week 13, 40 points. So again, solid. Fabianski with 8, Shaw with 5, again, doing really good things. Tielemans with a cracking goal by all accounts, with 8 points. Kane with 8 points. Again, it's his bench. He probably hasn't done too much in terms of trying to rectify that at this point. You could see a case for probably getting rid of both Zinchenko and St. Maximum and trying to pick up some points in there. It's totally up to him whether he does that. He's still looking pretty good, equal third at this point in time. Would you be looking at maybe making a couple of changes there to get a few more points in?
Probably yes. I think. I mean, I can understand Zinchenko would probably go. I don't think he's necessarily that much of an attacking threat, and I think it's Tomiyasu's been playing there, and he's been really good.
Yeah.
I guess Zinchenko did really well the first couple of rounds, got a 12, 1, and 6. Since then, he's played 150 minutes for 3 points. So that's a long time that he's held him. But we've said this before, Dave's only made 3 subs, 3 waivers all year, and he's sitting where he is. So bloody impressive, to be honest. Skamaka looks like it's going to have been a great pickup. Kane and Darwin, so his forward line's strong.
Oh, yeah.
Midfield's okay. I think Odegaard not playing that week really hurt because he's probably out and out number 1. St. Maximum would be close number 2, and Tielemans is a good number 3. Elise is a good number 4. Jensen is 5. Okay, that's probably a fair bit of a drop, but a guaranteed player in that 5th slot is what you want. And Jensen has been that. He's started every game. He's only failed to make the 60 minutes twice, and that was round 1 and 3. Hasn't really had hasn't had any of a return since round 3, but he also doesn't seem to get yellow cards. He's had 1 yellow card, but he got the clean sheet, so he's never scores less than 2, which you can guarantee yourself 2 points for your 5th player. You're doing okay. So defense looks okay. Just James and Zinchenko, one of them probably has to go. And I would probably say it's hard because I said James, but James. James will be out until the World Cup. So you could probably drop him because Zinchenko will come back in. I think he's a more natural left back, Zinchenko, than Tomiyasu. But I think if they were both fit, I'd be dropping Zinchenko. So it's an interesting one.
Yeah, absolutely. A few things to think about. Hopefully, Dave, if you're listening, don't stress too much, mate. You're doing pretty well, all things considered. So, we'll see if he gets a bit of time, whether he's going to make a few changes there. Could help propel him up the board and maybe get past Jeff. He's been jostling with Jeff for a little while, and I'm sure he would love to sort of start sneaking past him. So we'll have to wait and see if he can do that. It's probably time to talk about Jeff then, equal third. If we have a look at game week 12, 41 points, pretty solid. Koulibaly with 6, Martinez with 6, Burns with 6, Zaha with 8. Zaha's been really good for him this season. Salah, not as good as what he probably would have hoped this season. Good old Calvert-Lewin, hey, back scoring points. That's really wonderful. But again, nothing too much on the bench. And he's obviously made some changes there with
I'd like
Isaac
to correct
and
you.
Dego Jota.
Calvert-Lewin back scoring point.
Oh, sorry.
Not points. He only scored 1 that week.
Okay, well, should I look at the next week and see if he scored more than a point?
Have a crack.
I'll just have to refresh here because the scores weren't being shown. So, points in game week 13 for Calvert-Lewin. 8, in fact. Oh my goodness, that's the most points he's probably scored in 2 years. Like that's insane.
Yes, that's quite a lot.
Hey, so Jeff has gone out on a limb and he's starting to get his return there. But other than that, Rodrigo with 7, Edison with 5, and nothing much else to write home about. The whole going heavy on Liverpool hasn't really worked for him this year so far. Foden has been good, but didn't really do anything that particular game week. But the thing is, he's got now points to come off the bench if he needs it. So Welbeck with 2, Burn with 2. He's got more options there, so he's not as susceptible to getting a few 0 points on his starting 11. So that can only be a good thing.
Yeah,
very, very nice. Well, this does take us to Gilby. Now, Gilby's been in second place for a little while now. I've got no doubt he would love to be pushing up into that first place region, but game week 12 probably didn't do him any favors, I would suggest. And it was a tough game week for everybody, but 28 points with Pope with 6, Dallat with 6, Castagna with 6. That was really all there was to write home about, unfortunately. There was not much on the bench there at all. It sort of 28 points was almost the best he could really have come up with in that game week. But game week 13, 51 points, Mick. So that was the biggest of that game week, of our just gone game week. And if we have a look, he's got, decent points across the board with Castagna with 12, De Bruyne with 9, Maddison with 8, Trossard with 7, Watkins with 6. He's got a good spread there. Nothing on the bench, unfortunately. So whether that's something we've spoken to him about that before, whether that's something he wants to change, I don't know. But 51 points for the game week's not a bad result. You got to say, Mick, that's a pretty strong midfield, isn't it? When you look at
it. Absolutely, it is. Gundogan or Trossard probably the weakest of those. It seems to be midweek games for UCL, like Champions League. Gundogan's guaranteed starter becomes captain for those games. So I think he's probably the one that if he does need to upgrade, that's where you are. But, I don't think you need to upgrade. I look at his entire team, and we've always said forward line's probably his weakest part.
Yeah.
In saying that, Ronaldo, I can understand why you hold him, because if he starts, he's going to do well. Watkins, I think you hold now until you see what happens with the new manager. They came out and scored 4 straight away, so if he gets any involvement with that, he's going to do really well.
Yep.
And we've mentioned Haaland might have a bit of a niggle. I don't think there'll be too much to it. He played half a game when he had a fever, had a bit of sickness, had a bit of a knock to his foot. A small knock when he's sick, you take him out, don't you? There's no real need to play him. They're already doing well enough in Champions League, so I don't think there'll be too much there, but I think that'll help him this coming week, because I assume Alvarez will get the start. So he'll look okay this week. He can hold Ronaldo, because we know Ronaldo won't be playing. So I think he's in a really good spot. He does have Chilwell, who hasn't done much at all this year. And
true.
Gahey and Christensen. So they're probably his only, 3 weak spots in the team, the 2 defenders and maybe 1 striker. But, man, his midfield, I would expect every week, De Bruyne, Maddison, Ward-Prowse or Trossard, you will get 1 attacking return from them.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I think even if you get 2, 2, 2 and 5, take 11 points from 4 players. If you do that across the board, you're getting up near 33, and you generally have 1 player that's going to do 1 or 2 or get some bonus in there as well. So I think you're doing pretty well.
Yeah, absolutely. No, absolutely right. So I think that's looking pretty good for him at this point in time. So any of the boys who are listening, if you're looking for a midfielder, Gilby's got plenty of them that maybe he might want to trade with. Probably not, but hey, it's worth a go, isn't it, Mick?
Absolutely. Can always put it out. Always put it out there.
Yeah,
I will say, as soon as I got Rashford, it was about 6 o'clock at night, 8 o'clock was the waiver time. I immediately sent a message to Gilby to say, hey, I've got Rashford. Want to give me De Bruyne? Obviously, there's other things in there as well.
Right.
The response is something along the lines of KDB is a no-go. That was it. No more response. It didn't even go any further, but it was floated.
It was floated. Well done. That would be. I can never see Gilby doing that sort of trade, but you got to try. You got to try,
Absolutely.
like you say. You got to try. So that does bring us to myself. First position. Are people getting sick and tired of me hearing it? I'm not getting sick and tired of saying it. So let's have a bit of a look. As Mick said, still really consistent with the points. So if we have a look at game week 12, wrong button. If we look at game week 12, 43 points. So for a game week where we had a couple of teams not play, that was pretty low across the board, 43 was a really, really good outcome. Dunk with 8, Henry with 6. We had Almiron, Fernandez, both Hall. That's really where the points came from, which was good. I had 2 guys who weren't playing. Bowen, unfortunately, decided to miss a penalty. It would have been very, very different. Again, would have got some more points if he decided to score that. That would have been lovely.
That was a nice big swing for me because that's what got me the extra about 7 points for Allison. If that goes the other way and that 40 points I make up becomes 26 or something. So it worked out well.
Absolutely. So, I took a bit of a punt with Almiron, to be fair, but really pleased that I did. I could have gone with him or I could have gone with Gemresh, but Almiron's been in great form. So, yeah, I've been really pleased with his output. That's been really, really helpful considering I'm holding Kulusevski and who's not playing at the moment. So that's been a really good outcome.
I look at Almiron's numbers and it's almost like, why did someone not have him before that? Like, I understand what Gilby said a couple of weeks ago, and historically, I mean, he scored more goals in the last 5 game weeks than he scored in the entire Newcastle career.
Yeah.
So, yes, he is overperforming to that aspect, but if you look at his scores, he's only had 3 scores of 2. Everything else has been higher. So the weeks he hasn't had an attacking return, he's at least got a clean sheet point.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was against Bournemouth, Wolves, and Liverpool where he got 2. Where if you could tell me that after what's he played, 11 games?
Well, I was going to say the thing that surprised me is that he has started every game.
Yep.
And so that's like,
in saying that, you've had
that surprised me.
Isaac, St. Maximin, or Wilson. 1, if not 2 of those have been injured at every game this season.
Yeah.
When they're all fit, Almiron's the one that leaves.
You would think so, but with form like this,
absolutely,
he's pushing for a start, even with those guys fit.
Absolutely, and I mean, he's scored he's 45 points in the last 5 games.
Yeah,
which is huge. So he's going to come off the bench at worst, but the way he's playing right now, you've got to keep playing him, and their fixtures are okay.
Look at that, pretty good, So I'm really pleased that I've got him at the moment, and if that taunt from Grealish has done anything, it's made Almiron become a bit of a player in this game. So happy days. So yeah, 43 points. Really, really pleased with that. Was considering I had 4 big hitters not play, 5 realistically with Kulusevski. So I was really, really pleased with that. And then looking at the recent game week, 46 points. And I'm just going to skip down to the bench to start with because I left 12 points on the bench, which is a bit of a shame, unfortunately. So, if we're having a look, that means would have done a little bit better as well. But Almiron with another 10, Bernardo with 9, Haaland with 13. Can't really scoff at that. So it seems that they just sort of continue to fight for me at this point in time, and pretty happy with how it's all going, Nick.
Is Kulusevski on the chopping block? I think that Dorito says he's out until 12th of November, which I think might be the last game before mid-season break.
Yeah.
And I did just look, Sweden is not at the World Cup, so he will have that entire rest leg, yes.
Yeah, which is good. he'll stay. I mean, there's not that many game weeks. I've kept him for a bit. I don't see this as a. I mean, that could change if that projection shifts. Let's say they say,
Yep.
oh no, it's more serious. He's not going to be back until February. Well, he's probably going to go. But
The fact that he could return before the break and then has the entire break means he's probably worth keeping.
yeah,
And I guess especially while you've got
they've
the
been
points
missing
you're
him
getting.
too. I'll be honest. I reckon Spurs have missed him because he offers something very different for them, and I think he'll come back into the team when he's fit straight away. Personally, so
Mhm.
I really like him. I think he's quality. Um, so yeah, look, I know you've spoken about it in terms of stop being so damn consistent.
Mhm.
I've been really pleased with it. So, my worst score is 25 points in game week 2. And other than that, I've pretty much been, my lowest is 43 points. So, mate, really, really happy with that. Yeah, it's been good.
Absolutely. Yeah, you can't ask for more than that. It'd be interesting to know if you break 40 or 45, 20, 25, 30 times a season, I don't think you're going to be outside the top three.
Yeah. And as we were saying before, like that's how Nathan sort of ended up winning last year because his last 10 game weeks, he was just super consistent and I just couldn't make ground on him because he kept on getting in those mid to high 40s. So, the more time I can keep doing that, the better. Could have changed this week if Haaland doesn't play, potentially. But, we just got to wait and see who steps up and hopefully gets me some points. Mick, obviously we've got the multi to do.
Mhm.
But you do have that graph. I wondered if you wanted to maybe share that because you have been doing a bit of tracking for us for our league.
I have, which I'll see if I can even remember how to do this.
Oh, you know how to.
Share
You'll be fine.
screen, Windows, there, share. Okay, is it coming
So
up? Have we got it there? Oh,
here it
look at
is.
that. I'll make it a bit bigger so everyone can see it there.
Oh,
So
look at this.
I know, look at this. So basically, just looking at the scores throughout the season, we've said it before that the scores kind of disappear once the season's over. So we've got our total scores here, but what I like to look at is this guy here. I'll see if I can make it a bit
Let's
bigger
zoom
for
in.
you.
Oh,
Might
go
even
one
be able
more.
to go. Why not?
There we
So
go.
basically, you got yourself at the top. That's obviously 0 points behind the leader because you are the leader.
Ah,
And this shows me the consistency you've had, just the downward trend of everybody. There's
yeah,
how many weeks has someone moved up from F here, which would be round 6? Well, Gilby had a bit of an up there. Other than that, everyone went down. Everyone went down. Everyone went down. A little bit of an up here. Ben had a couple of good weeks back to back.
yeah, he did.
Unfortunately, had one bad game week, which was the week he had a few players not play, which
Yeah,
undid all that work. Apart
yeah,
from that, Gilby had a little bit of an up this week. Everyone else went down. So, and obviously the exception being that one really good week that I had, which moved me up quite a lot. So the consistency, I think, really shows with everybody else's trajectory, which I haven't actually done this, but I guess over the last 5 weeks, I can actually, if I get rid of these scores temporarily, you can see how much more consistent it is. So I'm a point ahead of you over the last 5 weeks. And then
yep,
everyone else is pretty close with the exception of Dan, who we've already mentioned had a bad couple of weeks.
yeah, yeah.
But other than that, everyone's pretty close. But what I wanted to do is if we take your scores out, let's see who becomes the leader. Look how close that is. Now, obviously, this graph is your 400 points behind the leader because you got 0. But if we look at everybody else, you're going really well. Now, let's see if I can do this even better. That's better.
There we go.
So a hell of a lot closer that you've got everyone, like Gilby's obviously doing really well. Outside that, the middle table is really close. So
Yeah,
2 game weeks can swing all that around. Craney's struggling a little bit. First time in this game. I wouldn't expect anything less really when we've done it for about 6, 7 years now. Gilby doing really well, but it's just unfortunate with how consistent you've been that even though he's doing really well, hasn't been able to make the most and get a lead.
yeah. I mean, I still think say if I were to have 3 bad game weeks in a row, that lead's gone. You know what I mean?
With three bad game weeks in a row, you haven't even had one
Yeah,
bad game week yet.
I know
That's the issue.
the likelihood of it happening, sure, but it doesn't mean it can't happen. That's what I'm saying. So
That is true.
let's say it's not 3 in a row. Let's say it's 3 over the course of 10 game weeks. You know, that's a lot more likely, realistically, when you think about it. And it can happen.
Yes, and it can. But the way Erling Haaland has gone, assuming he stays fit, yes, that's a big if. He will blank 3 in 10 games, that's sure. In those other 7, at this rate, he will score about 16 goals.
True.
And 16 goals for you is about 80 points.
Mm.
So
right.
that's the issue is, yes, you can blank, but even if you do blank, he doesn't seem to blank twice in a row. So, and I think the biggest exception to that is the weeks he hasn't fired for you, you've had cover. You've had Almiron and Fernandez for 21 points when the week he didn't play. So things like that have really worked, and you've had really good, I guess the cards have fallen pretty well for you so far, predominantly with Haaland, but in the few times Haaland hasn't, everybody else has stepped up to the plate. So I will expect, yes, we'll see a little bit more of an upward trend from people here and there. I don't think we'll see 7 out of the other 8 players go down every week. I can't see you staying in the top 3 every week, because that's, I think, pretty much what you've done every single time so far.
Yeah, it's been pretty good like that. We got to remember we're pretty much a third of the way through the season, so we still have 2/3 left. It's good to be in this position right now, but I'd be a lot more comfortable and confident if this was, we had 10 games left to go and this is where we were sitting. So, plenty to go. It'll be very, very interesting. Now we've just run over the hour mark, Mick. It is time for the multi. Look, I think we've done pretty well, to be fair.
Do you want to pick out a game for the week first? Because we normally do that.
Yeah, we should do that. No,
I mean,
you're right.
I look at it, and Man U West Ham will be an interesting one. In terms of, I guess, who's going to perform in that. If Rashford's going to start, West Ham, maybe they're starting to look a little bit better, and also Moyes against his old team. But outside that, there's not really any quality matchups that I see. Leeds. Liverpool can't defend. Leeds historically haven't been able to defend, so could be a goal fest. Probably the most interesting one is the first game, Leicester-Man City. Leicester have played really well the last couple.
Yeah.
Man City, obviously Man City. So it'll be interesting to see whether Man City just is the machine they are and they just wipe Leicester, or if Leicester can do a bit of a job against them. But do you want me to do the multi, or do you want to say your games first?
Well, I was just going to say, for me, if I look at it, one that intrigues me would be Brighton-Chelsea. Yep. Just because Potter is returning. How's he going to go managing against his old side? Is that, Brighton's still wanting to attack and wanting to have possession. So I think that's going to be a very interesting game to see what Potter does in that game and how he sets his team up. The other one that I sort of am looking at, there's probably two. Did you mention Newcastle, Aston Villa? I think with Aston Villa scoring 4, which was, no one thought that was going to happen, or 3, how many they scored, that could be an interesting game. Newcastle doing really, really well. They're in the top 4 and they deserve to be there. So, and the last one for me probably being Fulham-Everton, because Fulham have looked really good. Everton, have they turned a corner beating Palace 3-0? Palace are a good side. They did it. So
they're averaging considerably 1 goal a game, Everton. So defensively, they've been really good. Newcastle have the best defense, conceded 10 in 12 games. So that's actually the game that I had earmarked for the multi this week.
I think Mitrovic will be a big test for them, so that'll be very interesting.
I think so, but I'm backing it out because I get this wrong so often, and I want Mitrovic to do well. I'm backing Everton in. And you know what? I've just gone the whole hog. I've gone everything almost meme poddish. So I've gone Everton, Fulham, everything in this game. No other games need to be watched this weekend. I've gone under 2.5 goals for the game.
Okay.
Which Everton's defensive record, assuming they get the win, which is the next part of that, Everton get the win, they're going to keep a clean sheet. If they win this game, I think it'll be a clean sheet. I don't think they're going to win a high-scoring game. Yeah, so I'm basically going, if that happens, they'll both happen. If one of them's wrong, they're both going to be wrong. So I've also got there that Everton will be leading at halftime through a DCL first goal.
Mm-hmm.
So 4 legs to it. Calvert-Lewin first goal scorer in the first half. Everton to win with less, either 1-0 or 2-0 effectively.
Yeah.
So that's it's 36-1, so a little bit under, but I still think that's relatively straightforward, all in one game, easy to remember. probably won't happen.
You're right. Yeah. Given your last.
I'll upgrade it. It won't happen.
Okay. There we go. No, fair enough.
But hey, Division 1 Lotto is about 135 million to 1. This is only 36 to 1. I'm a chance.
We all know how probability works. I mean,
it's 50-50.
It is a chance.
It either happens or it doesn't.
Oh, really?
Yep, that's how probability works.
Oh, no. I've been teaching it to my students wrong all term. So,
Exactly.
Look, I have my fingers crossed for you, Mick. I really do. I do want one of these to actually come off at some point. It would be just magical. A magical moment of podcast history.
Oh.
Something
Surely
to
it'd be up
celebrate.
for an award. It'd almost be like true.
I mean, I
crime
can't
award,
think of
right?
I can't think of what award, but I'm sure there could be something out there for it. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, very nice. Well, Mick, look, it's been an hour, 5 minutes. I think we've done pretty well considering we've gone through 2 game weeks, a bunch of trades. I'm pretty impressed with their efforts. So thanks for joining me, Mick. I do appreciate it. And look, we'll do it all again next week, and hopefully Gilby and Dave can sometime join us. That'd be nice.
We just have to sweet talk some of the other boys to join us.
I think so. I'm
if
sure
we're going to get some special guests, let's get some real special guests.
Oh, they'll be special.
Dave,
don't you worry.
You're not special. That's what I just said.
They're also not guests, to be fair, but
well, I reckon they've been on probably less than half of the pods right now this year.
Ooh, it's awkward.
Maybe they're probably just over half. But if they miss a couple more, they're guests.
We'll have you back, Dave Gilby. Don't you worry. But maybe we can get some of the other boys on moving forward as well, just to give them an opportunity to defend themselves and for Dan to call you out for jinxing his team.
Yeah,
so
go for it.
Thank you very much, Mick, and we'll catch you and everybody else next time.
Cheers, mate.